Volgende spreker is Danah Zohar. Danah.
Hi. I have to confess I accepted this invitation because I wanted to tell you off. I'm angry with you, I'm fed up with you, I'm cheesed off by you, I'm frustrated by you. Particularly frustrated right now in my life because I've just lost 40 kilo. I was hugely fat.
Yeah.
And when you reduce your body size to about half of what it was, you feel different, you want to change, and you look around you for a while. What's out there? What do I want to be? What do I want to look like? I look at what Chris calls the shit you guys produce. It's all for 20-year-olds, and they're slim and young, long blonde hair usually. And I'm in my 50s. And if I were to model myself on what I see in the ads you produce for how a woman should look if she wants to look good, I'd really look like a silly old fool. And there hasn't been anything out there that's I can look at when I'm sitting in the beauty parlor or something and say, yeah, that's for me. So one of the big omissions in your advertising is people my age. Everything is for young guys or young girls who want to get each other into bed, want quick, fast sensation, instant pleasure, and that's not what we're about. I make my living peddling spirituality. And that's why I was invited here, not to tell you off, but to make you spiritual. But I'm not peddling religion. I'm not saying there should be a church of the advertising world and you should elect high priests and have rituals and cross yourselves and all that. When I talk about spirituality, I'm talking about the spiritual values that turn people on, particularly after the recession. We have been living in a very materialistic culture, really since the end of the Second World War. It's been ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. People had been through so much deprivation and so much hardship, and everybody just wanted to get everything. And you guys fed them. You responded to the market, or what you perceive to be the market. And that's good salesmanship. And a large part of being an advertising person is, of course, you're selling your clients' products. And if you don't do it, you're out of a job. But I want to tell you what the four main spiritual questions are, and then address them in terms of you. I think everybody in their lives at some point asks four questions, or at least they ask them even if they don't hear the words in their heads. They're directed by them, especially if they get up in the middle of the night and have a whiskey or smoke a joint or something and say, you know, what's it all about? The four main questions are, who am I? Where do I come from? Why am I here? And what can I do? Who am I? Where do I come from? Why am I here? And what can I do? So who are you guys? Are you salesmen? Are you people who respond to the market as you perceive it? You give the suckers what they want. Even worse, you manipulate the suckers into being suckers in the first place and then give them what they think they want. No. You're more than that. Eckhart Tolle, if any of you have read his Power of Now, really raises the value of you. He says that you are critical to the unfolding of the universal divine purpose. That's how important you are. I'm not selling you all that. I don't know if your advertising is important to the unfolding of the divine purpose, but it is important because you guys don't just react to the consumer, you create the consumer. You are co-creators of reality, as they say in quantum physics. The world isn't just out there. The consumer's taste isn't just out there. You make it. You give people the dreams that they live. You give them the images that fill their imaginations. You give them little mantras that roll around in their heads. You give them desires. And that's a hell of a lot of power. You are amongst the most powerful people on earth today, much more powerful than politicians who talk nothing but shit. And I think it's important to think of who you are that you have all this power, that you are the wizards of the imagination, magicians, poets, music makers. And you are creating the world in which the consumer is going to buy your products. You're creating the consumer. And that means you're creating society. And that gives you a hell of a lot of responsibility. And that addresses why you're here. You're not here, I think, just to tell me I should look like a 20-year-old astride the bonnet of a car, draped over. I just look ridiculous. You're here to help someone like me who's looking for what I want to be, who I want to be, what I want to express, and show me a little bit. It's a dialogue. I don't want to be conned by you. I don't want to be made by you. I don't even entirely agree with Chris that everything I decide is because my mates like it or my friends or my social circle. I do have my own desires, but they are in dialogue, and they're in dialogue with what you offer to me. You create or co-create, co-author who I am, what I want to be, and what I value and what I do. Hell of a lot of responsibility. And I'd invite you to take it seriously. I think that instead of thinking of yourselves as salesmen, you might think of yourselves as artists, musicians, poets. Many of you come from those backgrounds. Many of you are from art school. There might even in the audience be the odd philosophy graduate or literature graduate. Chris studied literature before going into advertising. I'll bet in your personal lives you value more than the Rolex watch on your wrist, the Porsche that you drive, the bird you're going to get into bed tonight. Bring out who you are in your work, because who you are is probably a lot of who I am. And in discovering yourselves, you help me discover myself. You develop people, you broaden people, and by doing that, you broaden your consumer base. You aren't just selling to the suckers who've been buying what you've been giving them. And I don't want to say you're creating new suckers, because that'll undermine my whole audience, my whole argument. But you are creating the consumer. You are creating society. You are creating the values people are going to live by. Thinking of someone like me, I think of that ad you all know about, the Dove soap commercial ad. That's one thing that a woman my age could look at and say, hey, I'm not bad. Because it showed that all women are beautiful. Fat women, old women, wrinkled women, black women, white women, yellow women, etc. It addressed everybody and said, don't feel so bad about yourself. You're beautiful. Do that for people. You don't have to be beautiful by looking 20, wearing a Rolex watch, driving a Porsche, knocking back a martini over a seduction scene, etc. There are lots of ways to feel beautiful and good. And I think that's what people want today, particularly post-recession. People want to discover something about who they really are. They want to know, and they don't want to define themselves anymore in terms of what they wear or what they own. That shit all went out the window when people didn't have the money to buy it anymore. It made everybody stop and think, what's it really about? What do I really want to spend the money I've got on? What does it do for my life, for what I value, for what I care about, for whom I care about? And you are the people who are going to help them discover that. You are the people who are going to be the poets and music makers of our society. I want to read you one poem about who I think you are. It is about music makers. I'd make this the advertiser's anthem if I had the power. We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams. Yet we are the movers and shakers of the world forever, it seems. We in the ages lying, in the buried past of the earth, built Nineveh with our sighing, and Babel itself with our mirth. We o'erthrew them with our prophesying, about the old, to the old, about the new world's worth. For each age is a dream that is dying, and one that is coming to birth. Personally, I think the age of greed, lust, instant pleasure, materialism is dying, and there's another age coming to birth. I invite you to be the poets who write about it, the artists who portray it, the midwives who bring it to birth. Thank you.